we are. Okay, I was thinking, how do I bring all these people back up on screen? Never mind, I did it.
Good job.
All right, so welcome to Tidbits and Scribbles. Couple things first. I have a new sponsor. We are sponsored now by the Book Nook, the local bookstore in Peoria, Illinois. I talked to her just last week, actually, because we were going to do Tidbits and Scribbles. That was going to be our debut, but we're debuting it tonight. She will be the sponsor until June. When we have she puts on a local author thing. She can't do it inside because her building is too cramped and crowded with all the books that they have. But they do it out on their front lawn and the front driveway area in the shopping plaza. So until June, the Book Nook is our sponsor.
Cool.
So,
and how local do local authors have to be?
I think it has to be like local to Peoria, but I'm not sure. I can check because local could be Illinois as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Indiana should be too.
Of course it should be.
And where is the Book Nook located?
Book Nook is on University Street in Peoria. It's also in Washington on Summit Drive.
Okay.
Summit? Oh, I can't forget.
That's okay. Nobody goes to Washington.
Huh?
I will if they give me a table.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, in Washington, they're on Cummings Lane. And then I think she's got a new store she's trying to open down in like Bloomington Normal.
Oh,
yes.
Nice.
I have to get details on that. But there for a while, she was looking for a manager to man that store. And I thought, maybe. But she needs somebody on weekends. So weekends
yeah.
So, the other thing I wanted to talk about was QuadCon this past weekend or the weekend before. Oh my God, QuadCon was amazing.
Yeah.
You guys that came out to see us, it was phenomenal. Like, we had so much fun meeting people, talking to friends, selling books, talking books, getting people on the newsletter, which goes out tomorrow for me. But yeah. It was a phenomenal time. The promoter that runs that show, his name is John. He reached out to me and was like, I hope you had a great time. Hope things went great. And of course, I replied that yes, it was a fantastic time and we'll be back. The next one in Peoria, I believe, is July.
July 23rd, the weekend of July 23rd, I believe.
Yes. Yep. And it'll be down at the Civic Center. It won't be at the mall.
Oh.
Yep. But when he does Civic Center, it's a very large room. It's not tucked away in the back like some other book things that we've gone to. This one is huge. In fact, Carl, if you remember when we did that other book signing at the Civic Center, the garage that we parked in is the room that we do QuadCon in.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Like they opened that whole room up. And last time News 25, the local news came in and interviewed me and several others on it.
Sweet.
So it's a big deal. John does a really good job of promoting.
That is.
Yeah, Dawn said QuadCon kicked me on my butt.
That's because your neighbors were obnoxious, Dawn.
Well, there's that, you know.
And then there were those people who stopped by. I mean, didn't buy a damn thing.
That's okay. That made it so much fun. And then we closed down the Pizza Ranch afterwards. So
Yes, we did.
My God, it was so much fun.
It was a great weekend. It really was.
It was exhausting, but great.
Yeah.
Because now I have to order more books, but that's a great problem to have. So I'll take it.
Mm-hmm. Most
All
conventions.
right. So
wind
does
up
anybody
being
have
exhausting.
a topic they want to cover that came up this week or last?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Well,
Go
Dan
for it,
Dan has one he forgot, but I'll remind him after I bring up the topic I was going to bring up first.
Okay.
And that is I was kind of speaking online to a newer writer. Actually, she's written 4 or 5 books and several stories, and she hasn't published a thing yet. And it was because of fear of rejection. So Nick was talking to her. I was speaking with her through Facebook, and she may watch your show after she gets off work tonight.
Good.
I just want to say, don't ever fear rejection. I mean, a publisher will reject something if you send it in, maybe, But if you say publish,
Mhm.
you skip that part.
Yeah.
Readers may or may not like your work. That's okay. Someone else will.
Right. Yeah.
Don't worry about those kind of things. Don't let that hold you back from
Oh, heck no.
whatever you need to do to be happy. You
Well,
know?
Stephen King may be making millions of dollars, but I don't like his work.
Right.
I don't.
I said
like-
it.
I'm not a
There's
fan.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
writers that are doing incredibly well, and
Mhm.
it's not with my contributions, but
Right.
yeah, it's like I ask people in that situation, would you rather pay the price of success or the price of regret?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good point.
Nobody wants to be laying on their deathbed going, I wish I'd published my stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and then there are those who are afraid of success.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
chasing it. I'm hunting it down with a rifle.
Yeah.
I feel targeted.
It fears me.
Well, I mean, like right now, Colleen Hoover is just climbing. Like she's got several of the top 10 New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah.
She's on most of it. She's pretty much taken the list over. And there's people that just absolutely cannot stand her work.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
People
and it's just going to be
love-
that way. You're not going to be for everybody. So
Right.
you
Absolutely
definitely do your thing and enjoy it and have fun with it. And just keep in mind that, yeah, there's people that are going to hate it. There's people that are going to love it. And you're not writing for the people that hate it.
Right. Yeah.
You'll find
Well,
your audience, or let them
yeah.
find you.
Well, and honestly, I wrote my story because there was nothing else on the market that I knew of that was like it. I wrote
Thank
it because
you.
that's a story I would want to read.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I
Exactly.
thought, you know what, I'm going to write this and nobody's ever going to see it, but that's okay. Well, then a few people saw it and went, this needs published.
Mhm.
And now I've got fans that are like, where's the next one?
Mhm.
Where's the next one? And
Yeah.
I never planned to make a next one.
Yeah.
But my God, this ride has been so much fun.
Yeah.
So success isn't that bad in that
No,
regard, you know? So
it's
there you
scary
go.
as hell, but it's not that bad.
And you meet the nicest people, and you get to hang out with them.
Oh, yeah.
And if
You
you do it like Donna, you know, who's written a bunch of stuff and then releases it, dribbles it out, you know,
Yeah.
then you don't have to fear like, oh wow, everybody wants this book. They want the next book. Well, okay, I'll give you that in 6 months. Boom, you know. And you did no more work on it, really. You just kind of tightened it up a little bit and
Mhm.
ready to set it out there. So there's no reason for this young lady who has, you know, a stack of stuff she's already written to worry about that success either, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
No, I was like Michaela. I write what I like, but I did try to go the regular publishing thing, and that's a lot of work. And I'm a lazy person, so I'm like, I'll just write my stories. And then indie publishing came along and became popular.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a possibility when I started in on this, because when my sister-in-law said, why is this not published? My first answer was, I don't know how. And then she said, well, let's start figuring it out. And I said, but what if they say yes?
Yeah.
I didn't care if they said
Yeah,
no.
that's a horrible
I mean,
thing to
everybody
have to
said
worry
no.
about.
Like,
If
what-
people
what-
like
what's
it,
after
that's
yes?
horrible.
What now?
Yeah. Well, years ago when I started writing the nonfiction stuff, when I was writing for magazines and stuff, I had a best-selling cookbook author ask me why I wasn't writing books. And I said, I don't have a degree in writing. I didn't go to school for writing. This isn't, I don't feel like I'm qualified. And she said, you have enough skill and enough imagination. You can do whatever you want with it.
Mhm.
And it took
I
me
can-
years to finally believe her that I could do this.
Isn't that the thing? You have somebody that says you have the talent, go. And it takes you years to believe them.
Yeah,
I can
it's really sad. I wish I hadn't wasted all that time, but
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I am where I am. So,
Yeah.
it's okay.
By now I could have 40 books out, like Christine Feehan or Danielle Steele, or,
Yeah.
I could have that amount of books out if I'd have started back then.
I like the word that Dan said the other day, apostrophe.
There you go.
I like
There you go. People get struck with apostrophe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said, if you got if they got to the stories in your head, go ahead and write the stories you want to read, but nobody else seems to be writing.
Yeah.
I mean, the ideas are here.
Yeah.
Well, you going to waste them?
Well,
Yeah.
and part of mine was I read a lot of romance novels, but they were from the, let's say, 80s and 90s.
Uh-huh.
And so they never went far enough. Like there was detail, but it was never enough. It was like, okay, there was a battle scene, but it's a romance novel, so they didn't put too much into it. Just, you know, there was a little battle, you know. And it's like, but who got hurt and how did they get hurt? And, you know, or some of the romance happened and that didn't go far enough. And I'm like, but where did that go? And how did you do that? And why do you love this guy?
Right.
It wasn't there in
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
novels.
Well, and I had read Andrea Norton's science fiction and some of her fantasy stuff for years before I ever figured out she writes romance.
Yeah.
It's just in a science fiction or fantasy setting,
Mhm.
Right.
and she does it so well that if you're not in the mindset to see that, if you're young enough to where that goes right over your head, it's a great story anyway.
Right.
And when you're older and you see it, you go, wow, there's hidden depths to this material.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like
I
watching
think one of
Rugrats.
one of my big fears too when I started was, what if I hey what if
Halo.
John saying hi?
Hi, John.
I just,
Get back in here.
Being summoned.
We did not. We don't do these.
What if I run out of ideas? You know,
Yeah.
what if I've only got I mean, I have all these ideas, but what if I start working on them and realize none of them are any good, or I only use a few, and then I'm like, okay, I have no more good ideas left. And I've learned that's actually not a problem once you get started.
Yeah.
No, just the opposite of
no.
anything.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
you know, because when I
It's
started,
finding the time to write down all the ideas
Oh, God,
that you
yes.
get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Voice recorder.
even if you're one of those dedicated people that sit down and write every day,
Mm-hmm.
your mind is still going to create more material than you can possibly write.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
There's pages and pages over here in a pile that if I'm not careful,
Well,
it will fall over because
the-
it's just a Post-it note or a notebook or another Post-it note or another note from somewhere.
this book
Yeah.
is
The real
half full of
trick
one
is
series I
concentrate
want to
on
write.
one till you get it done, or
Mhm.
concentrate on 5 or 10 till you get
Right.
several done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the
Well,
world's
and-
worst about having 8 different projects going at one time and
Right.
in various stages of completion.
Well, and for me right now, I'm working on Vela. That's my focus right now. Well, I have to take my daughter to her job every morning. So I've got about 4 hours where I can either work with a horse or I can sit and write. Well, I can't do the internet thing because on my phone it's a pain in the butt typing this way. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to write it out in a notebook. I like that anyway. That gives me a broader range to play with the scene. And so I'll do that, but then I'll get back here and I'll be looking at what I wrote. And sometimes that makes it to the typed and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that's just a jumping off point.
Mhm.
That's just well, that stuff, that backstory was pretty good, but I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it gives me that creative release of, okay, all my thoughts are down there, almost like a junk drawer
Mhm.
for your writing. It's, I'm going to put all the notes here, all the word diarrhea on that page.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to sit down later and I'm going to, for lack of a better term, edit it onto typing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or another
Yeah.
way you could do it is to record it, like vocally record it into your phone, and then use something when you're back home, like Microsoft Word, text or speech to text,
Mhm.
or one of the other speech to
Oh, heck
text sort
yeah.
of things, and just replay your phone right next to the
Yeah.
microphone and let it do all your typing for you.
Yep.
Because I know
Yeah.
several authors that do that. You know, they might be driving in the car, but they'll sit there and they'll dictate their novel or short story, whatever, into the phone, or just get their ideas down. Then once they get home, it's like put it up against the microphone and go have
Yeah.
a sandwich.
Just
Yeah,
don't
let
do
it
that
go.
like when you wake up in the middle of the night and try to do that.
Mhm.
God, yes.
I found out that doesn't work well. I've tried writing stuff down. I've tried to just like wake up and dictate into my phone, and it never makes sense. So
Yeah, I keep
It's
trying
like
to
wake
look for it.
I used to
Yeah.
have a pile of notes here
Yeah.
in front of my desk and all over. And I found out that I can take a picture of the note.
Mhm.
My phone will then translate it into text, and I can pull that text from the phone to OneNote.
Yeah.
Nice.
And from there, I can create a little
Oh, heck
notebook for it and then pull that into Word if need be. So, I mean,
Yeah, that's,
just do it once and then
mhm.
boom, keep
Yeah.
keep moving it around after that. That's what my problem. I keep shuffling.
Exactly.
Yeah, Rich, I had the same problem.
Mhm.
And so
yeah.
sometimes when I'm trying to text or speech to text a certain scene, like an adult scene, it won't come out right that way.
Sure.
But I'll know what I was talking about. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another thing is I had that problem too, and broadcasting helped me. I tried to teach myself to speak more clearly.
Mhm.
And when I know that I am dictating into a phone, I do try to speak as if I were talking, say, on the radio, if I were a news reader or something. I speak more clearly, my diction improves. Because like I look at some of my early broadcasting and I sound like I've got a mouthful of marbles, but at least now while there's still no thought behind it, I still at least sound a little bit more professional.
well, yeah. And the thing is, what we're all saying is you won't know until you start this. You won't know how you write until you start writing. You won't know how you speak until you start speaking. And not speaking to your friends, speaking a different way, writing a different way. Artists do the same thing with their painting. You don't know how you're going to do on this canvas or that material or this medium until you start to do it. And then you figure out ways that you can improve it.
Yeah. And if you have written something, you won't know how popular it's going to be until you actually get some printed copies or some ebook,
Right.
and send them out there and let people try them. And don't be afraid. I mean, unless you have some bizarre, weird religious or political bent to the thing,
Right.
it's not going to turn people off as much as you might think, And
Yeah.
sometimes, even if you have those weird bents, you'll still have a fandom. I mean,
There's something for everyone on the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's another thing. Something else I was taught very early on when I first started getting serious about this is that when you are it's not really you that's being rejected.
Right.
All the person who's looking at this, whether it's a publisher, a reader, an editor, whatever, is rejecting words on paper, ones and zeros, if we got to be technical now about it. They are not rejecting you as a person. Now, if you happen to empathize so much with your characters, of course, it used to be that I'd get a rejection from a magazine, whatever, and I would be, of course, plotting the demise of that person. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but I would, I'd be annoyed. I'd be really unhappy. And then about 24 hours later, I just started realizing, well, no, I need to go through and see if there's anything I need to learn from this rejection.
Yes.
And the best ones are the ones where they tell you why they think you suck.
Yeah. And keep in mind that especially if you're going to like a publisher or an agent, it's not necessarily whether or not your book is good or bad. It's whether or not they feel like it's sellable in the market that they have the expertise in.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, it could be a fantastic book, but if they don't know how to properly market it, or they don't think they can profit and sell it, it's not going to be for them. And that's not because your book sucks. It's because it's not for them.
Right. Right. Well, and that's Dragon Blade Publishing is a brand new publishing house. I say brand new. It's a couple years old now, so it's virtually brand new. But the moment they came out, they were like, "Here's what we can do. Here's what we can't do. We're not accepting this stuff because we simply don't know how to market it. That may change, but right now we can't market that because we don't know how. So we're not accepting it. It's nothing against you, nothing against that type of writing. We just don't know what we're doing in that arena."
Yeah.
Sure.
And for a publisher to step forward and say that is amazing.
It is.
Well,
and that's why picking your market to submit to is a very important thing.
Yes.
I once got a very, very nice rejection letter from a publisher that a friend of mine had recommended that they read my stuff. And they go, "Hey, this is great. It's not for our audience.
That works.
We can't sell it, but it's great. We wish we could.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Best of, yeah, try this other company."
Sure.
And it wasn't because they wanted to get rid of me. It's because basically they had fun, but it was not their target readership.
Well, shoot.
So
How many times did Harry Potter get rejected before?
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
And I've had things
should
turned
know.
down because they were too short.
Yep.
Or the best one I got was, I wish you'd gotten here a month earlier because we just printed something just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't need another one right now. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dang,
I've had that
right."
several times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, you
but
can't
that-
take any of it personally.
No.
You
Oh,
just
God, no.
can't.
Oh no.
oh no, no.
I hate the term thick skin because I think it makes it sound like you're not allowed to feel things.
Right.
But at
Right.
the same time, this is definitely, because creativity is subjective.
Mhm.
This is definitely one of those things where you have to be willing to go, you know what? It's okay if they don't like it, because it doesn't, it doesn't change who I am or my value or how good I am. It just reflects on what they like and don't like.
Right.
Yes, and what they're looking for. That's the other thing. A publishing house. There's things that they're supposed to look for.
Yeah, they have formulas that they follow
Yeah.
for a certain
Yeah.
self. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's something different for each one. So
Yeah.
And
it
then
really
again,
is.
if you're just beginning,
Mhm.
it may be the rejection slip may be because you didn't pay attention to the rules, or you haven't learned enough yet.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
No,
Write more,
no,
and the more you write,
you
the
could
more
you could be
learn.
going in a terrific direction, but it's not as organized and coherent as what they would love to have.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just
And it's not
because
like-
you haven't had the experience yet.
Yeah, it's not like math where 1 + 1 is always 2, and it's just that simple.
Yeah.
You have different formulas that work for different types of stories. They have different rules for their submissions and what they're looking for, and they know what kind of tropes and what kind of plot points, and they know, they know where they want things to peak, and they have all this kind of formulas that they follow. And I wish I could go back and rewrite my very first book after doing this for roughly 8 years, because now I read it and I cringe a bit. It's still a good story, but I see so many things I could have done so much better had I known what I know now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you learn and you grow, and you need to revel in that growth and just go, great, this next book is going to be even better than the last book.
Mhm.
And just push
Well, and that's
forward.
when I'm at shows, I tell people. Now, Secret is the first one that came out. Trust was my mess up book. I say other things, but Trust was my mess up book. Because if you're a good writer, you're growing, as you should.
Mhm.
And with the second one, I had no idea what I was doing as far as writing a sequel in a series. I had no idea. I thought you had to make it go from the scene that you left off with to the next scene is the next book. You don't have to do that. But that's what I thought at the time. Now, my writing is far better. But in that book, I struggled. And so I don't think I'm ever going to fix it just because that shows the progression.
Mhm.
Some people absolutely adore that book. Me, it makes my eye twitch. But whatever.
Yeah.
And something that Amy brought up is going to take us into Dan's topic, I think, that he suggested. If you read older books, okay, and you haven't read anything that was recently published, you might try to emulate the older books. And in that time, set dressing and world building were huge.
Yeah.
And Dan was saying on another show that, you don't do that now. You don't start out with a 20-minute introduction to
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
explaining how your world works. You don't do that.
Yeah. And
And
that's
then
something that I
you
did
get
wrong in
better
my first book. Is I had read all these romances and these historical romances and all this, and my first book was romantic suspense, and it was set in modern day. But I had read all these, And I had read, the Harlequin and the Avons and all those. Well, they're written very differently from what the book that I wrote. The style is very different. Like what's called head hopping. The omniscient, what do they call that? I'm not going to be able to say it.
Omniscient.
Thank you,
Omniscient
because
narrator.
this retainer makes me nuts. I cannot speak. So the omniscient, point of view where what everyone is thinking and everyone is doing is considered head hopping in certain genres. But that's all I read. So that was how I wrote. And then when people would read it, they'd be like, "It's great. Wow, there's a lot of head hopping." And I was like, "What is head hopping?"
I did,
and I had to learn that in specific, like more contemporary romance, you just don't do that. That's not considered good writing for that genre. So there's a lot you learn,
Yeah, and
Yeah, the focus is different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially,
Nowadays you get right down to it. You don't have
people need to see that action right there.
Yeah.
If it doesn't grab them, they're going to walk away.
Donna had written something that I had to edit recently, and I said, "Why is this not starting with the car crash?" I mean, that's where you need to start this book. Then go back and say, "Oh, okay, this is why the crash occurred, perhaps." But yeah, you really need to start this with the action.
And I don't know if it's short attention spans. I mean, or if it's the instant.
I was thinking that very thing because
gratification.
I think it's gratification more than anything. Because like I grew up, when I was learning how to write, a lot of what I was reading were the action adventure novels of the 70s and 80s. And usually those started with some sort of action, more or less like comic books, where that first page draws you in because, Superman slugging this giant ape that's walking down Main Street Metropolis. You want to find out why. Then the story that from that point on is bringing you up to speed on why there's this big ape, etc. So.
Well, right. It's like saying if you write romance, grab the person by the heart first. Then you've got them. Then you can tell them your story. If you're writing horror, grab them in their mind first, where they're scared to death, and then you've got them.
Yeah, you have to intrigue them in some way or another so that they want to turn that next page. And that can be pretty tricky sometimes, especially if you're writing something that's a little more slow burn. But
and I never thought about. Susan Tisdale said, "Don't ever end a chapter where they go to sleep. Like they take a nap, the day is over, they go to bed." Never once did I think about that, but that is in Trust. There are a couple chapters in Trust where they go to bed, and I'm like, "Oh, dang it! Oh."
You got to keep that action flowing from this chapter to that chapter, so that they don't want to stop. Like, they went to bed. You want to be like, "Holy crap, they're fighting!" It's the end of the chapter. Okay, what did he say next?
Yes.
Well, you got to make them
go to bed. Right, because if your characters go to bed, your reader can put the book down and go to bed. Like, no,
don't give them a stopping
point. What a great idea!
Oh yeah.
Don't give them a stopping point at all.
Or use some sort of cliffhanger like the old Saturday morning serials.
Oh yes.
Like when I wrote Skyman, that was my model right there. That you have some sort of action that makes you want it resolved, and so you go to the next chapter to seek that resolution. So
a good example of that is Neurosis by
excellent book.
Thank you.
And I had to just finally say, look, I know this next chapter is going to be scary, and I'm going to close it and go to bed because I don't want to dream about whatever's happening in the next chapter. When she goes in that basement,
it is now 3 a.m. I must get up at 6. I'm putting it down.
Yeah.
I have to stop somewhere. Yeah.
Boss, I'll be 20 minutes late. I've still got a few more pages left.
Really. My alarm clock went off, and I'm not through the book yet.
Done. Yeah.
Those are the good ones.
Thank you. I think it is a very high compliment, Carl.
It's a great book, actually.
It is.
Available from author.amyhale.com and also Amazon.
There you go. I got this.
So you got.
Look at that! I got
it. I was looking to see. Do I have
hashtag always promote?
Yeah.
There we go. That's what
it
looks
like.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
Yes, there you go. And Dan, did that hit kind of on the world building that you were talking about?
The styles have changed. Used to
a lot.
Long time ago, you had to build the world before you could get somebody interested in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, if you don't drop them in the middle of the action and piecemeal the world building in
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
as it's revealed to your point of view character,
Yeah.
then people just go,
Never mind. I
nah.
don't need all that. Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about that this weekend, Michaela and I, that
Well,
we had
and
tried to read a book, and it was
it was too
basically a
much
travelogue of the last 10,000 years of this one world.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
no!
Well,
Yeah,
and just before
I've
we
got
started
that. It's
tonight-
called an outline for
Yeah. Yeah.
What's an
about 5 different
outline?
series.
Just before we started tonight, Carl and Donna and I were all talking about the way Secret starts out.
Mm-hmm.
There's fire, but you only know there's fire. You didn't see it, but you know there is because there's smoke. Then she gets out of a bed and the ropes in the bed creak. Okay, well, we're not modern times then, or we're in a Chinese prison. She hits the floor and the floor is hard stone. The walls are hard stone. Okay, well, we're probably not in a hotel.
Yeah.
So you're world building as you go, as your
Yes.
character is
Yes.
going through it. You're building. Okay, so we're in a stone something or other. It's on fire. How is stone on fire? You know, and then as you go, what she's wearing, how she thinks about it, what she thinks. Those are all things that are world building. And I didn't have to say she's in medieval castle and it's burning to the ground. But she's been
Yeah.
trained as a warrior. Hey, look at this.
Yeah. And that's something
And
with
one
like,
thing you also did with that, you dropped in a lot of sensory input, which is a very good thing to draw your reader in because
Yes.
smell the smoke.
Get that heartbeat going.
Oh yeah,
immerse them in all of that that's happening so that they're right there in the middle of it with your character.
Mm-hmm.
And like with neurosis, I started it off with her sitting in her therapist's office saying, hey, it's happened again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could say, well, yeah, she's got all this trauma from her childhood, and I could go through how she lives her life daily and how she struggles with this and struggles with that. But I felt like the best place to start was jump right in with her, telling her therapist, I saw her again, the woman that looks exactly like me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And it puts you right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And then it lets you build from there what her life is like and how she is working through this trauma from her past and her current trauma that's currently plaguing her without having to like dump all this do a big like info dump.
Yeah.
And literally just bore the crap out of you because it's just all this information with no action.
Yeah.
yeah.
The book. I don't know who wrote that one, but
That's a good one.
That's,
In there-
that's another great one there.
in there, I had to build up the world and say these folks met in the firehouse when they had a town meeting, and the capacity, the fire chief was worried because the capacity is only 100 some people, whatever, and they're over that. I never said that the town was so small it didn't even have a town hall, or it didn't have any place else for people to meet other than the fire. They had to pull the fire truck out and meet in the fire, but all of that was added as we went. And pretty soon you get the idea. Oh, this is a small little town.
Yeah.
Right.
But if I had said, "Oh, in a small Midwestern town," whatever.
Yeah.
But make it part of the story. Pull it out piece by piece, and you'll pull your reader in, and you'll explain what you need to explain, but don't just tell them.
Right.
Just show.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I like about world building is it's not necessarily something you want at the onset of the story,
Mm-hmm.
but it gives you as a writer an idea of what kind of setting and set dressing that you've got to deal with. You're establishing the rules, you're establishing the backstory. All of this is in your head.
Mm-hmm.
When it's important, you can tell the reader.
Yeah.
When it's
Right.
dull and boring, don't mention it.
I did
Save
that
it
with
for
the word-
later.
I did that with his sword. No, that's not code. His sword. The guy carries a sword.
Okay.
Well, in like one chapter, I mentioned it like 20 freaking times that he had a sword, and every time he moved, that sword did something.
Mm.
And my critique partner was like, did you happen to mention his sword? I really did mean his sword, his weapon. Like, she's like, okay, then use a different word if you must mention it again. But I don't really think you need to mention it. But in my head, that first go round, I wrote it down because I wanted people to understand that this is back in medieval days. Like, he's not carrying a gun as a weapon.
Right.
He's carrying a sword. So we're back in medieval times. And I didn't want to say, hey, we're in medieval times.
Yeah,
If you're not
unless
sure.
unless the sword itself is a major character,
Right.
might want to back away from mentioning on all that.
A
Also.
little bit.
Yeah, because if it
Now,
doesn't move the
okay,
plot forward-
okay. I just thought of this. Now, what if he was a carpenter? Would you mention the hammer that often,
Perhaps.
or the crosscut saw,
Yeah,
or the
exactly.
plumb bob?
Probably.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you're ever writing and you're worried about whether should I mention this, should I not, ask yourself, does this move the plot forward?
Yeah.
Does this really add to the story and the surroundings, or is this just an empty word that isn't necessary?
Or am I showing off how my great big beautiful brains
Oh,
because
God.
I created all this stuff?
Yeah.
Or the
Am I using fancy
obnoxiously
vocabulary?
Yes, the obnoxiously long word to describe something when you could have just said that's a damn hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I once
like-
ran across a manuscript that was absolutely, totally unreadable, except if you were a university professor with about 20 years of tenure under
Lord.
your belt.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the average
read
reader
four
would have
words
to
and
have
put
an
an 8 on the
entire
paper.
encyclopedia there to look up words, not just a dictionary.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, if you need a library around you just to figure out what they're talking about, you may have overdone it a bit.
Well,
like,
there are also
this guy
scales.
could not get to it. The first few phrases of a sentence without pulling stuff out that you had to have the complete, unabridged Oxford English Dictionary to
Yeah.
understand what he said. Because
Wow.
it's not words that is in the average reader's vocabulary.
Well, that brings
Right.
up a good point about a lot of popular books are written at about a 6th grade reading level. It is not to dumb down the audience, but that is the average level of comprehension for most people. A lot of the most popular books, like a Stephen King, Rowling, Grisham, whoever, they're probably written between a 6th and 8th grade vocabulary for the reason of clarity.
Yeah.
I knew a writer who I know 2 writers who pride themselves on, I make sure that it is only understood by a 12th grader.
Right.
And I'm like,
Okay, make your audience this big.
Yeah,
When-
if you find
When was
one
the
in
last
first
time
place.
you met a 12th grader, dude? I mean,
Yeah.
what are they concerned with?
Well, it's just the reading level of most of them. They don't. The vocabulary is very important, which is fine if you're writing academically.
I was
If
just
you're
gonna say
writing
that.
for a fiction and for a general audience, and there are places actually online. I don't have any in my head right now, but you can actually upload your manuscript, and it will tell you according to like 2 or 3 different scales which grade level your manuscript is written for. And
Grammarly might do that.
Grammarly, I think, is one of them. Yeah, but there
it
are a
might
couple.
have a feature that does that. I've just never
there's-
looked for it.
Yeah, there's a couple of. I know there were also at one point a couple of free online things where you could put in, let's say, 500 words, and it tells you what the grade level is. And again, it's not because you're dumbing it down for anyone. It is because it's also good, like if you're writing a juvenile novel, where you maybe want to go a little below that too. You may want to drop it down to 4th or whatever. So this is very, very useful because you don't want to alienate your audience by sounding like you want them to know you're the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Don't talk down to your readers.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mike, you are so welcome. Because Mike
Cool,
runs a
Mike.
business where he makes grubs. He makes fishing lures.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Mhm.
Right.
Cool.
So granted, not books, but still business. Um,
Rejection is rejection.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's rejection everywhere.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it
One of my
does.
sons does that
Good
down
help.
here.
Mhm.
He finds it very much like meditation to be making fishing lures to sell to folks.
Yeah.
Because it's a very complicated, exact procedure to go through
Right.
to do all this stuff that
Right.
will catch fish, and then he goes out and he'll give away samples,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
he will wait, and the people come back and go, through that thing out there, I got a whopper first time.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
that's what we talked about. Mike and I talked about just here recently was marketing and how he can market, but he's different than books, obviously. But it's still marketing. It's still business. It's still trying to get your product
there's
out.
there's a core of marketing anything that is the
Mhm.
same.
Oh yeah,
It's just when you have different, I hate to
product.
say genres.
Yeah,
What's a better word?
product.
Topics, products.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It changes per product.
right. It
Mhm.
But
changes it a little bit, but again, you're still trying to
there's
reach your people.
yeah, you're still trying to appeal to the folks
Right.
that you're trying
Yeah.
to sell to.
You still have a target audience. You still have
There you go. Thank you.
specific niche you're trying to fill.
Mhm.
And that's, the whole point of writing or anything else is to be fulfilling in some way, whether it's because you need pots and pans. So people buy pots and pans,
Mhm.
or
Right.
you just want to escape reality for a little bit. And you go get a good book or a movie or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It all
entertainment of
fills a
some
need.
sort. Yeah. Yeah, you have to make them understand that, or make them realize that your product fills their need.
And that's going to depend on their needs.
Exactly.
I watch a variety of YouTube videos, and many of them are about using the OBS software.
Mhm.
There's one guy who is just so professional about it. He does a great job, and he's got like 1 million viewers. There's another guy who's got like 12,000 viewers. I don't know how he got those. Okay,
Yeah.
because the way he explains things. But the people that I see in the comments really needed that kind of explanation.
Oh
from
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am not his target audience, and I need to remember that. His target audience likes
yeah.
his down home.
Well, that's
know,
why there's
People
not
learn
one
differently.
motivational speaker that works for everybody.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are
I
people
mean-
that they worship the ground Les Brown walks on. There are other people that can't
That's me.
stand him. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, I
But
like.
they're wrong.
There's a couple others, but again, like
Hey,
one
Grant.
person's message does not reach everybody.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I homeschooled my kids, and I learned very quickly that my two children learn very differently. They
Oh, God,
required different approaches. They required completely different curricula sometimes, and it was a little daunting trying to keep up. And as they grew, that continued to change on how they learned and what they enjoyed and what interested them.
Oh heck yeah!
And it's everyone is that way. We all learn differently. I'm very like visual and hands-on, but if I read it, I'm not going to retain it until I've tried it or done it. It's
Yeah.
just how I am.
And
Some
do
people
you
they
find?
can hear it and they just pick it right up.
Oh heck yeah! And do you find that, like, let's say you've read the book on how to do it, then you go do it, then you go back and read that book again, and that book makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will go back to whatever it was and
Yeah.
read while I'm doing it because
Yes.
I need that reminder of, wait a minute. Then once I've done it, I'm like, oh, okay, makes total sense.
Right. That's cookbooks for me. That sounds silly, but cookbooks for me. Like, I can't read a cookbook and then picture what that thing will look like when it's done. Now, if I followed all the steps and we get it all done, I go, oh, well, it wasn't so hard. And next
Yeah, it was
time
easy.
I could like change it up or something,
Yeah.
But cooking for me is the ultimate, oh my God, no, I don't want to touch that. Like, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
For some reason or another,
Mhm.
I had characters in a fantasy story while they were having dinner, taking a break from the action.
Mhm.
Somehow or another, the topic of plate tectonics came up.
Oh Lord.
As it
And I
will.
and
Okay.
I think somebody asked about why is there a volcano there or something like that.
Mhm.
And I explained it like I would explain to one of my kids,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a good conversation basically, and it conveyed information, and it might have taught somebody something. I don't know. I ain't finished with it yet, but
Yeah.
that's not a major plot point in the book. It was just one of the things that they were talking to each other about. The wild
Mhm.
conversations that people have in real
Yeah.
life when they're
Mhm.
taking a break from uh, slaying trolls or dragons or whatever it is that they do for a
Yeah.
living. Yeah, and they're concentrating on the beef stew or whatever, and
Right.
kind of look up and wonder, where did all these mountains come from? I mean, why are those worn down and not tall, and these are just rearing up there like knife blades? And
Like, what if a giraffe messed with a zebra?
yeah,
Yeah.
That is the best thing I've ever heard Stephen King say. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, what if? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There-
So Amy's gonna have to go soon.
Okay.
So
No.
I wanted to bring up the GoFundMe that we started,
Mhm.
oh
um,
yes,
and how successful that was.
Mhm.
So,
oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Amy,
Yeah.
Brian, somebody, you want to talk about that?
But on that, I just have to bring this up because it's something my dad has always said. What if your knees were on backwards?
Mm.
Mhm.
My dad used to ask me that question. He goes, "How would we wear pants? How would we sit?" So it's one of those questions where it leads to other questions. So
If your
anyway,
knees bent
Makes
the other
sense.
way, what would a chair look like? Yeah,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
exactly.
Makes sense.
that that
That's
that
yeah,
was Gallagher.
yeah,
Yes, that's right.
exactly. So I don't know, Brian. Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead if you'd like.
Okay. So first off, I gotta say you guys are all amazing. You guys have given me my. I'm not kidding when I say you've given me my life back. I don't know if you would watch videos even from me from a few months ago. I it sounds terrible. I look much better than I looked a few months ago.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that. I was like, you look better.
You were a
I feel
mess.
better. I look better. I'm not. I'm not as depressed.
Good.
I mean, depression is unfortunately just a part of my characteristics at this point in my life. But I'm doing so much better, and it's because in part to everyone that has helped with the GoFundMe. We were stressed about the medical bills. We had one in collections, and they were
Okay.
really getting antagonistic. And because of the money that was raised through GoFundMe, we were able to pay off the collection bill. We were able to cover a lot of bills that were starting to be a problem before they became a problem.
Good.
Now
Good.
we're mostly just dealing with like the really, the big $5,000-$6,000 ones that came from hospital stays and whatever.
Right.
And we're making progress. You guys, between the GoFundMe and all the wonderful donations and things that people have sent, you guys have drummed up work for me personally with my formatting
Good.
business that has resulted in me being able to pay even more bills. And I've actually had some work come in recently that allowed me to pay for a couple of tables at events coming up.
Oh, good.
So yeah, my tables are even. I'm like, yes, I'm definitely going to be there. I'm not having to worry about that either.
Good.
But we put a halt to the GoFundMe as of Monday, yesterday, because my husband has a job that works on commissions. And what has happened is he was able to pull in some really big contracts that are going to allow us. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
It's okay.
It's okay.
That are going
It's
to
all
allow
right,
us
honey.
to pay those medical debts almost completely off when the commissions come in.
Yay.
That's
So
wonderful. That is
we
wonderful.
we are able to breathe again, knowing that we just got to kind of tough it out a couple more months here, 2 or 3 months, And then when those jobs are finished, we're going to have that debt cleared. And it's just, it's such a load off. Not to mention that I found I'm getting some new medical treatments that are helping me personally.
Good.
Some new diabetes treatments that are making a world of difference. I'm feeling better. I feel like I'm looking better. I feel like I have better color. I mean, you name it. I just feel overall better. It's not a miracle cure. I'm still dealing with my anemia and whatnot. But between the new treatments and just knowing that's going to be off our plate and we can stop stressing and worrying about how we're going to cover it all has made such a difference in our life, you guys. And I feel like the GoFundMe and everyone that has contributed and even just sent encouraging messages. I mean, because I know everybody can't contribute. I couldn't have contributed if I was on the other, end of this. You guys have just made such a difference. The messages saying, hey, I can't do anything right now, but I'm thinking of you. I'm sharing your links. It means just as much to me as somebody that donated, several $100s, because it all means that you care. And I can't even begin to tell you how much that means. And it has given us hope, and it has given me the itch to write again, because I feel like I can think and I can breathe again. And I've actually started a new romance novel. So yeah, and that's because of you guys. I mean, I can't even, like I said, I can't even begin to tell you. I will, despite words being my my thing.
We get it.
I don't have the words. So thank you all, and just bless you upon blessings for all that you guys have done.
You're welcome. It was fun.
That was interesting.
Amy, we just did what we could. Fortunately,
there's
a bunch of us.
Yeah.
We just did what we do. And that's why if you out there, if you hear us talking about the rising tide, we just are.
Yeah.
Brian started this whole thing because we just are those sort of folks. And we just have all gravitated towards each other because that's what we do.
Yeah. And I told Brian when I called him the other day, I said, hey, I am itching to pay this forward now. So whatever I can do to help moving forward, to help someone else, you tell me. I am in, no questions asked. We will make it happen. So yeah, I'm all in with the rising tide. Always have been, but it means even more to me now than I think ever to be a part of this group.
Well, and on a personal level, I would like to thank Amy, one, for trusting me to do this thing. I don't always come off as the most reputable person in the world by design.
No,
but I'm waiting till you're sitting down, Dan. I'm waiting till you're sitting down, dude. But no, I on a personal note, I would like to thank Amy and John for trusting me and for being patient with me as I'm trying to learn this new system. And I definitely want to thank everyone out there who, like Amy said, sent messages, alternative ways of helping, because I know that crowdfunding is not for everyone, and I get that. I totally get that. And to everyone who contributed, not just once, but that we had a couple of people who contributed like 3 times, I think.
Yes.
And some surprising people, plus people that reached out with ways to help, like people that such as Susan Tisdale, Linda, my crew from Comic Book Spectrum. We're offering things as incentives to get people to contribute. And the thing was, I believe we had an episode of this show a few weeks ago when it first started, and people were donating and saying, let the next person have the gift.
Yep.
And I cannot say enough about the rising tide people. I just love the hell out of all of you. I really do. And it, something I've been saying now since 2015 about rising tide. It's more than just lip service on my part. I'm with Amy. I believe it totally now. And again, I want to thank everyone here. I want to thank everyone out there who helped with this in one way or another. Sharing the message even was a huge help. Talking about it, and as far as the anthology that we had discussed, that would help Amy and all. We no longer, have the need for that goal, but we're going to talk about it going forward.
Mhm.
Right.
because we may have a new target. We've got to figure out who needs it, how to distribute it, etc. And Michaela and everyone here and I will be talking about what to do next, what the next step is. So, because a lot of people
Yeah.
are excited by being a part
Well,
of it.
and yeah, and the idea that we can take the rising tide and make it really rising tide and really help someone when someone says, "Hey, I'm down and out and I never expected this," like Amy did,
Yeah.
this was a blow from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And through that anthology being able to help people with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
could be an ongoing thing.
Oh,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I would love that. I would love to see that happen.
Me too. Me too. Because I got a Sandestein story to write.
Mhm.
Yes, you do.
Or Volcana, which
I'm working on Volcano right now. In fact, if you go to my Patreon account, Brian K. Morris on Patreon, which I always promote.
where's that at? Oh yeah. Hashtag always promote.
Yeah.
Well,
I got
it
you,
worked.
Brian.
It worked in this case too. So I got
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm really glad that we were able to do that,
Yeah,
and
seriously.
that I'm so glad it just gave you hope and that you're writing again.
Mhm.
Like that above all for me was like, yes, we have a writer back.
Yeah, that was my catalyst.
Me
In
too.
fact, because we linked
Oh,
to
yeah.
the video, the original video that I think all of us pretty much were there, where Amy was pouring out her heart to us, and it's like I understand Bill's, but when she started talking about I can't write anymore, I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that just
Yeah.
like sliced right through me. And I'm like, we got to do something.
It's one thing to worry about money and have all the different things going on in life.
Yeah.
But when what you feel you are at your core is no longer there,
Exactly.
I can't even begin to describe how crushing that is. Because
No,
even if I don't sell books, I still feel like I need to write them. It's just part of who I am. And to lose that was devastating, to be completely honest. It was absolutely devastating.
And when Amy, there was one night right after, I think we had this going for like a week or two, and Amy and I were talking online, and I've been running a picture of the pile of letters from debtors, and then she had a pile like this of neatly stacked of payments that were going out, and Amy told me how she was writing it. I'm glad we weren't talking like this.
Mhm.
I was verklempt. I was totally. I was like almost crying here. That I was just so happy to see that. So.
Yeah.
Well, because as writers and as creatives, we know what that means. Like that's part of who we are. It's not just like a hobby that we do.
Well, yeah, and never underestimate the power of sending out goodwill and positive vibes and just caring. I mean,
Right.
yeah, if you can contribute, fine. If you can't, be positive and be
Right.
supportive.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason
And
why every
that
major
makes a
religion
difference
has
too.
Yeah, there's a
If
reason.
there's an author that you love and they're on your mind, send them a quick note and say, hey, I just wanted to tell you how much I loved this book or how much I enjoy whatever. That may be the day that author is like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
That might be the day that they decide that one little note. I have had that happen many times. Get a little note out of nowhere, and it just renew my excitement for writing because maybe I've had a rough day or I'd gotten a terrible review or whatever.
Yeah.
And just having someone step in and say, you know what, I saw some recently in a forum or one of the Facebook groups I'm in, said something about, hey, I'm thinking about sending this author a note when I'm done.
Oh my
And
God, do it.
I posted, please do
Lord,
it
yes.
because
for sure.
this may be what makes her day. Don't just do it.
Don, you look like you
Aw,
Yes, John.
that's so sweet.
Well, Dawn also had a couple earlier, so then now that means she'll have another Sandestein story.
Yep.
she needs
Oh, there
to
it
read.
is. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it really does help because I wrote that book about Muncie. Okay, it's kind of like geocaching, but you go find codes, and I put it out for free on Facebook on a particular group that people that play the game will read. And I said, look, it's free. If you like it, put one in my town. Put a little code in my town so I can go find it.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll wake up and there'll be a thanks for the book, Uncle Carl. New Muncie in town. I'll be like, I don't know where
nice.
this person came from. It'll say like, thanks for the book, greetings from Australia or something. I'll be like,
That's
Wow.
awesome.
That's
That's
so
so
cool.
awesome.
hell? I'm like,
Yeah, that is so cool.
good on you. I mean,
Yeah.
so that tells me, okay, cool. It wasn't a sale, but it was
Right.
a affirmation, and that's all I wanted. So there you
Yeah,
go.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so
that
awesome.
is. That is.
Yeah.
Yes. So on this happy note, how about we end it here, and we
Okay.
will catch you 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm talking more to the sponsor that I have, the Book Nook. I've been talking more to the lady that owns it and operates it. So there may be more coming news from that too. So
Cool.
yeah, so lots of exciting stuff happening with Michaela Jade Brand. Bella's will be coming hot and heavy here pretty quick because I got past a snag, and so we're good. So now
Well, that's good because it's been almost 3 days since I read the last one.
I know, right? And that's
The
why
scroll
man,
systems
he is
are
so
a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing before we go.
Oh.
Joe says, I love that you have the itch to write again. Look forward to putting more of your books on the page.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you,
awesome.
Joe. Thank you
And
for
Joe-
all that you did as well.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you,
Thank
man.
you so much.
Yes,
Thank
he's
you,
working
Joe.
his butt off on that page, and
Indeed.
it's so
Yes.
awesome.
It's awesome.
CD.org.
IndieCD.org. Yep.
Yeah.
And when you say it, it doesn't sound right, but indie, like indie author,
Mhm.
CD.org.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's .org. Joe, is it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
.org
is.
right now? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Because I know that he's moving it from one host to another because it is so big.
Mhm.
And what we want to do with it is
Good.
so big, the host that he had couldn't support it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is .org. Yep.
Awesome.
Yes. I should say Dawn is also helping Joe with this. So
Yes.
I guess they've been in daily talks.
Maybe some night Joe or Dawn would like to be on,
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
You
let them
know.
have my slot
Yeah.
if they want.
or they can have mine for 1 week.
Yeah.
But I'm
1
coming
week,
back.
is that all?
That's all.
Yeah, we all leave and just leave those two on here. That's fine.
Okay. That'll work. Yep, that'll work. But yes, so we'll end it on happy news. We'll see each other in a couple of weeks. And by then we'll have lots more to talk about.
Mhm.
Cool beans.
You bet.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Let's see here. What do I got to do to close the show? Just say bye?
Bye,
Night,
everybody.
everyone.